Hello and welcome to the Spine Series. If you don't know who I am, my name is Justin Cutler. I'm the founder of Empower Inc. Coaching, where I help 90s kids that used to play sports get their health back in minimal space, equipment, and time. Today's video is all about the spine, and specifically a movement that you may already know. It's called the cat-cow, or sometimes called the cat-camel. Now, I'll just briefly say I overlooked this movement for a long time because I don't consider myself to be a yoga practitioner by any means. But once I started learning about the spine and its role in literally all movement and how important it is to be able to articulate, I gave it a second look and I'm really glad I did. And I think you will too. We're going to go through various shapes of the cat-cow. And let me explain just again briefly before we get started why we need to be able to articulate the spine. So, if you are like 80% of Americans, you probably have some sort of low back or other spine-related chronic pain or issue. I know I do. I tend to struggle with my lower back being tight and my neck. So a lot of times when we think about how to solve that pain, we strengthen our core, right? We do planks and we do various stiffening exercises, which is a really important function of the core to protect the spine from excessive movement. So think like when you're lifting a heavy barbell, helping a friend lift a couch, your core needs to be able to keep your spine from excessively moving. If not, that's how bulging and herniated discs tend to happen. But that's only one side of the coin for the core. The other equally important, but less talked about side is articulation. Because if you can brace, that's great. But what happens when you're lowering your baby down into the crib, when you're stooping down to tie your shoe, when you're just caught out of position? A core that cannot articulate the spine is an injury-prone spine. One quick analogy is, let's just pretend for a second that you put 100 pounds on top of your head. Now we have 24 vertebrae in the spine. Now, assuming we have a spine that can articulate perfectly, which none of us do, then we have about 4 pounds on each vertebrae, very evenly dispersed. That's a healthy spine. Unfortunately, most of us move our spines like as if we have 3 or 4 vertebrae. And now we're talking about having 25 to 30 pounds of pressure on just 3 to 4 of those vertebrae. And so learning how to articulate the spine means you are teaching your spine how to work as a team again. So it's an excellent resource for you to be able to solve your lower back pain or any kind of spinal issues you might have. It's also, think of it this way, if all of the signals have to pass from our brain through our spinal column and out to our limbs, and we have blockages in our spine, that's going to affect your ability to move. So, less talking, more moving, right? We're going to go through various shapes of the cat-cow. Let's go ahead and get started. All you need is a floor. Okay, so in the cat-cow position, we're going to be in what's called the tabletop position, which is your shoulders are over your wrists and your knees are under your hips, or hips are over your knees. And you're forming this sort of square tabletop position. If this is uncomfortable, you can put a pad under your knees. You can go on your fists if that hurts your wrists. We definitely want to address that, but that's for another video. I'm going to go palms down. And so the regular cat-cow we're going to go through, I'm going to show it to you, and then I'll have you follow along. We're just taking the spine through flexion and extension, okay? So all we're doing is thinking about pushing the back towards the ceiling, pushing the hips forward, so think about like tucking your tail, and then tucking your chin, okay? In that position, you should feel a nice stretch through your spinal column. So go ahead and do it with me. We're not starting the official set yet, but I just want you to feel this movement. So you should feel a contraction in your abs, your stomach muscles, and a stretch all throughout your back. That's flexion, okay? That's the cat. The cow or camel position is the opposite. So we're going to stick the butt out, push the belly and the chest towards the floor, and then look up. So now it's the opposite. Where you were feeling the stretch in your back, you want to feel a contraction all down your spinal column. And then where you were feeling a contraction in your abs, you want to feel that stretched out. Okay? Those are the two positions we're going to be going through, and we're going to do 5 slow repetitions. So go ahead and follow along with me. I'm just trying to breathe normally. I'm not going to say breathe in here, breathe in out there, or breathe out there. I'm just going to say breathe. Make sure you're breathing though. It's tempting when you're doing mobility to hold your breath. The problem with that is you're reinforcing your brain, that these are unsafe positions. And it's going to make it really hard for your body to loosen up. So regardless of where you breathe, just make sure you breathe. One more rep. Okay. So even in just doing that, maybe you got a little pop. You're welcome. I just saved you some money going to the chiropractor. The joke. But also you may have noticed some areas that are stiff. And so now we're going to be doing cat-cow variations for specific areas of the spine. Because in case you didn't know, your spine is split up into 3 sections. Your cervical spine, which is your neck, your thoracic spine, which is basically from your collarbone to your belly button, and then your lumbar spine, the lower half. We're going to be doing thoracic cat-cow and lumbar cat-cow. So the idea here is we just did a kind of a global motion in the regular cat-cow. Now we're going to get a little more specific before we really hit the peak with the segmented cat-cow, where we're trying to move one vertebrae at a time. So this is a progression up, okay? So the idea is with a thoracic cat-cow, you only want to move this section of the spine. So we don't want to see the neck moving and we don't want to see the hips moving, okay? So the way we do that is we're still on all fours, but now we actually sit back towards our heels. Now, for some people, this is uncomfortable. This is going to be uncomfortable on your shins, on your knees, your quads. You can roll up a mat or put a pillow or a thick towel and put it behind your knees to kind of supplement that. If you don't have any of that or that's still not comfortable, I just want you to lean back as far as you can comfortably, okay? I don't want it to deter from what we're trying to do. And then your hands are still on the floor. So again, think about where your thoracic spine is. It's from your collarbone to your belly button, okay? And so that's all we're trying to move. We push the back towards the ceiling, and now we're trying to feel just a stretch in the upper back and a contraction in the abs, and then we push the chest towards the floor. So right in the middle of your spinal column, in the middle of your back, that's where you want to feel a contraction. We don't want to feel it in the neck. We don't want to feel it in the lower back, okay? Just in the upper back, all right? We're going to be moving back and forth in this position for 10 repetitions, okay? So here we go, 10 reps. Same thing, breathing normally. Push the back towards the ceiling, push the chest towards the floor. Now I should say too, before we get too deep into this set, that because we're moving a smaller section of the spine, that means we're going to be moving through smaller range of motion. So don't expect to get as big of a range of motion in this variation as you did in the full cat-cow. Okay, it's always worth noting. It's 3, 4, 5. You want to keep your hands somewhat relaxed, like you're not really pushing with your shoulders at all. This is all core muscles and back muscles. 6, 7, 8, 9, nice, 10. Okay, so hopefully you're feeling a little activity in your upper back. One quick side note, something I was observing, and as you do this stuff more, the idea is you're not just loosening up your body, you're learning about your body. I know that sounds really deep and woo-woo, but we're trying to learn, like, why does my body hurt in this area? How can I overcome this? I tend to have left shoulder blade issues, which gives me neck pain. In doing this, I felt as I was pushing my chest towards the floor, it was harder for the left side of my thoracic spine to fire. And so I'm like, that's probably part of the reason. And then begins the quest to learn why that's happening and all of that. Point is, this is not just supposed to loosen up your body. It's supposed to teach you, like, have those light bulb moments. That's why that hurts. So anyway, just a quick side note. Okay, so we just did the thoracic spine. Now we're going to do the lumbar spine, which is your lower back. There's 2 different positions you can do this in. It really doesn't matter which one. What matters is that you are in a position that allows you to feel what we're supposed to feel, which is the lower back. So position number 1 is just back in the all fours position. I will say this one's a little bit harder to isolate your lower back because as you're doing it, you're going to be tempted to want to move your upper back, which is what we don't want. Like we're just moving the hips, right? Kind of a provocative movement, but it's important for our lower back to be strong. If you want to better block your lower back, you can go into this position. I'm going to move my microphone here. You can go into this position, okay? Because now it's harder for you to move your neck and your upper back. Either way you go, whether you're on all fours or down here, you want to make sure that your knees are now behind your hips. That just makes it easier for you to move your lower back. I'm going to go into this block position. You can do whichever one you want, okay? So now from here, this is a really small motion, okay? We're not going to get a ton of range of motion out of this, so don't expect to. We're going to just push the hips forward and tuck the tail. In this position, you should feel 2 things: a contraction in your lower abs beneath your belly button and a stretch in your lower back. Honestly, just holding this position feels really good. And then the opposite is we stick the butt out, okay? And now you should feel a contraction in your lower back. If you have lower back issues, one note here is you want to make sure that both sides are firing equally. It's something that a lot of us aren't aware of, but can be causing the very imbalance that's causing your pain. So try to make sure that on both sides of the spinal column, you're feeling it equally. Okay, we're going to do 10 reps. So here we go. Tuck the tail, feel the lower abs squeezing and the lower back stretching out, and then push the butt out. Feel the lower back contracting. Okay, that's 1. We're going to do 10. And I like to really coach what you're supposed to be feeling versus just the position you want to be in, because you may need to make really small adjustments to feel the feelings I say that we need to feel. So that may be scooting your knees back a little more, scooting them up a little more, trying a different position, like maybe going from this one to all fours or vice versa. Point is, know what you're supposed to feel and then make micro adjustments to feel that. Hope that makes sense. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, nice work. Put this microphone back on. Okay, so we have done the regular cat-cow, the thoracic cat-cow, and the lumbar cat-cow. So now we're going to put all that together with what's called the segmented cat-cow. And essentially, like I said in the beginning of the video, now we are trying to move the spine 1 vertebrae at a time. So this is done slowly. This is kind of tedious. You may find that there's different sections of the spine that want to move together instead of separately like they're supposed to. Super normal, but that's why we're doing this, is because eventually those sections that feel really sticky and blocky, we want to be able to segment those, because now, like I said in that illustration with the weight on the spine, now all of those are evenly displacing weight instead of just 1 vertebrae doing it, if that makes sense. So this is done very slowly. The analogy I like to use here is like you have strips of LED lights going up your spinal column. And when you're doing this, you're just thinking of 1 pair of light bulbs lighting up at a time, okay? So I want you to watch. I'm going to do 1 repetition. I want you to watch 1 repetition, and then we're going to do 5 repetitions together, okay? So I'm going to show you directly from the side here. There's a lot of different variations. This is the variation I like to teach because it's just, in my opinion, the most basic one. And so it's just easiest to learn. But there are variations that you can do the more comfortable and familiar you get with this concept. So we're going to start back in that cat position. Only now, instead of moving the entire spine into extension, you're holding this position and then just moving the hips. So you can hopefully see my blue pants. You see the waistline kind of tilting. But I'm resisting the urge to let the very next section move. Okay, so I'm just moving my low back. Now I'm going to push my belly button towards the floor, just the belly button. Notice how I'm still keeping my shoulders rounded out. Okay, and now I'm just pushing my upper belly towards the ground. And you want to feel each section of your spinal column lighting up as you go up. Now I'm pushing just the lower portion of my chest. Okay, now my full chest, shoulder area, then finally the neck. Okay, that's 1 rep, and then we begin again in flex position. So go ahead and follow along with me. I'm going to give you different cues. When I'm in person with someone, I like to tangibly tap on the spine to give them those visuals. But obviously this is a video, so that's why I use the LED light analogy. Hopefully that made sense. So we start in this flex position in all fours. Okay, go ahead and get there. Now hold this position and try to just move your hips like we felt in the lumbar cat-cow. So you want to just feel the very lower part of your back light up. Now think about pushing your belly button towards the ground. So you feel just a couple more inches of your spinal column light up, but you're still keeping the upper body rounded out. Okay? Now push the upper belly towards the ground. Now push the lower part of the chest, so you should feel this start to creep up towards the shoulder blades in your spinal column. Then push your chest towards the ground. Okay, now you're feeling everything but your neck, and then finally the neck. Okay? So many people get so frustrated, like, I didn't feel it. You did 1 rep. You're going to need to do a lot more than that to get better at this, just like anything else. So be patient. You're doing more work for your spine than you think, even at the level you're at. So get back into flex position. We're going to do 4 more reps, and I'll just say the cues. Okay? So we go tailbone. Then we go belly button. Then we go upper belly. Lower chest. Upper chest or full chest. And the neck. And then back into flex position. 3 more. Okay, so tailbone, belly button, upper belly, lower chest, full chest, and the neck. And back. Tailbone, belly button, belly, lower chest, full chest, and the neck. Good, last one. Tailbone, belly button, upper belly, lower chest, full chest, and the neck. Woo! Okay, good job. If you're anything like me, your spinal column is probably feeling pretty lit up right now, and that's a good thing. We want that to happen. Now, one caveat I'll say is, especially if you have chronic issues in your spine, and those issues are worse now, I'll say 2 things. Number 1, that's not the goal. So you do want to see that dissipate the more you do this. That leads me into the second thing. As much as pain will allow, try to keep doing this. I know it's not what we're taught. We're taught to not move things, but that's more of that hurt, but that's more of from a liability standpoint. The doctor doesn't want to see you get worse under their watch. It's kind of a tinfoil hat statement, but I believe it's true just based on my 14 years of coaching experience. And I have just experienced with myself and hundreds of people I've worked with over the years that the more you move something, as long as you're not doing anything stupid and you're letting pain be its guide or be your guide, the quicker things feel better because you're getting blood flow. Think about it. Like the healing nutrients that those damaged areas need is carried there by blood. Not moving and ice restricts blood flow. Pain-free movement increases blood flow. I'll let you decide which one will speed up recovery. So we're going to end this session with more cat-cows, 5 more regular ones that we started off with. I like to bookend the series with cat-cows so you can see and feel the difference, because ideally now you're at least a little more aware of what each section is supposed to feel like, and you're loosened up, so maybe you're going to get a little more range of motion. Okay, so now we're going to move the entire spine again as one. All right, so last thing, 5 more reps and then you're done. Get back into all fours, shoulders over wrists, hips over knees. We're going to go into full flexion. So push the back towards the ceiling, tuck the tail, and tuck the chin. And then stick the butt out, push the belly and the chest towards the floor and look up. That's 1, and we're gonna do 5. Make sure you're breathing. All right. So, did you get more range of motion out of that? I hope you did. I definitely did. At least it felt looser. So a couple things. How often should you do this? I always set a minimum, in most cases for mobility, 3 days a week, minimum. If you notice, I'm doing this in a living room. You do not need to be in workout mode in a gym to do this. You could put on your favorite show and do this while you're watching TV, okay? Or for the first 5 minutes of the episode, okay? Because it doesn't take long if you take out all the coaching. So that's number 1, is do it at least 3 days a week, ideally every day, okay? The more you can, motion is lotion is something I like to say. So the more you can move, the looser you'll feel most of the time. And then if and when you tweak something, you now have a set of tools that allows you to move through that tweak much faster versus just resting, okay? And the other thing I was gonna say too is we just did 1 round. You could absolutely do multiple sets of each movement. If I was doing that with you in a session, I'd probably have you do just 3 rounds, 2 to 3 rounds of this entire thing. So cat-cow, thoracic cat-cow, lumbar cat-cow, segmented cat-cow, and then repeat for 3 rounds. So you can always rewind the video if you want to do multiple sets. This stuff is really hard to overdo unless, of course, you have current issues, current injuries. You always want to let pain be your guide no matter what. But if you don't have any glaring issues in your spine, you could do this 2-3 sets every single day. In fact, I recommend that as the gold standard that you want to work up to, doing spinal movement every single day. So I hope this helps. Feel free to share it with someone else that has back issues. I am here to help, and I'll see you for the next one.